Wengaleng Beats.
Hi everyone and welcome to the Match Day Premier League show. I'm your host, I am Deo. Now venye tutakuwa tunafanya kwa hii show, we are going to go over the matches that are going to be played. We are going to make predictions. And then after the predictions, we're going to have a post-match analysis. And then we're going to be looking at each game and then we see what went right, what went wrong for each match. This week we are in March 22 of 38. Arsenal are still top of the table, as you can see here, with 5 points difference between Arsenal and Man City. So we are still waiting kungojea ile siku ile Arsenal itaanguka. We are still waiting for that day. But the season is going, the season is going really well so far. They still have a game in hand. So they look really good. In terms of my match prediction, in terms of the championship, who's gonna win? I'd say if Arsenal maintains this 5 points lead gap between now and March day 30, that is there will be 8 days to 8 games to play. Then I would say they will be looking very good to winning the championship. Then I would be very comfortable to say Arsenal will actually go ahead and win this. So if they lose one match and one match only, so they lose out 3 points in the next 6 games, I think Arsenal is going to win the league. But as it stands, I think it's too close to call, especially taking into account Man City. They have Man City home and away. So I think it's too early to call. Anyway, so let's get into it. So let's start by looking at the fixtures and try and predicting the outcome. And then afterwards, as I said, we'll do a post analysis. So I'm currently doing this video on a Friday. As you can see that the Chelsea Fulham game is today at 8 p.m. 8 p.m. UK time, +3. That will get you to Kenyan time. So around 11:30. So I'll not predict this much because video it actually to talk kesho, so which is Saturday, and once the video is now up and running, it will actually be after the games are actually being played. All right, so in terms of Chelsea, let's just look at the fixtures. Let's look at the win probability and things like that. All right, so in terms of the win probability, well, Chelsea is looking really good to win this match, 60%, but they're still currently sitting at number 10 and Fulham at number 7, right? So Fulham has a probability of winning of 17%. There's a big draw probability of around 23%, which is actually bigger than Fulham's chances of winning this match. But if we look at the form table, so if you're looking at the last 5 matches and we see what has been the record. So we start with the host, which is Chelsea. Chelsea, in the last 5 matches, they've drawn 2, won 1, and lost 2 matches. Right, so they're not really on form. Hebu tuangalie sasa side ya Fulham. Then we have they have drawn none of their last 5 matches. They have won 3, and they've actually lost 2. So this is a team that knows how to win. Not even knows how to lose, but they don't know how to draw. So compared to Chelsea, they have drawn, so they can settle for results. So in terms of my prediction for this match, as I said, I will not predict, but I will just mention some key things that will be a factor in this particular match. First of all, this is a derby. This is a London derby. In fact, recently nilienda kutembea the Chelsea Stadium and then nikaenda the Fulham Stadium. These two stadiums are actually like 20 or 30 minutes drive in between the two stadiums. So this is almost like a home game for the Fulham team. So even though inachezwa Stanford Bridge, bado it's almost like a game that it will be played in Craven Cottage, because the teams, in terms of the distance, the fans don't have really to go far. So you will expect this is a game that will be fully packed. In addition to that, it's a London derby, so we're expecting hard tackles and na vitu kama hizo. Now, Fulham actually above Chelsea this season. This season hasn't been Chelsea's season. They have not performed well. They've actually performed worse than Liverpool. That tells you that they are not doing really, really well. So ukiangalia from the form table na ukiangalia from the table itself, it looks like Fulham might actually win. I think this is one that's hard to predict, but it looks like Fulham can win. So you can make a case for Fulham based on their form, the recent form over the last 5 matches, plus the fact that they actually are having a better season than Chelsea. Also, the fact that Chelsea has players, well, high quality players, but all these players are actually new, especially in the January window. They've introduced so many players. I think most significant is Enzo and Mudryk. Mudryk himself, I think he's a really, really good player, and is one of the key players that I think will actually shine. In terms of my prediction for Mudryk, I think he will be the new Hazard. So anyway, some people with my chest with some confidence, even though at a flop. But anyway, I think he's sharp, agile. He looks quick feet. I think he has the football brain as well. And na jamaa akikuwa kama the next Chelsea Hazard. I think they've gotten the perfect replacement for Chelsea after spending all that money. Okay, so that's the Chelsea Fulham game. As I said, I will not predict that one for now. Okay, so let's move to the next game. So the next game after the Chelsea Fulham game is the Everton Arsenal game, which will be played Saturday, which is the day you're watching the video. So Leo at 12:30 UK time, but plus 3 hours for Kenyan time. So the host Everton are not really on form this season. In fact, they have just recently sacked their manager, so they have lost 4 out of the last 5 games. They have not even won any of the last 5 games. So Everton are not really looking good. So that's why I think the win probability of Everton is actually at 12%. And the in comparison, if you look at Arsenal's win probability, 69%, because Arsenal have been really on form this season. Arteta has proven himself in the Premier League, I think, this season. I didn't expect them to win the last match when they played against Man United. Like they actually won. So they're doing the right things. They have very good players. I think I'll pick 2 key players. Odegaard and Partey in the in the midfield. So attacking mid, Odegaard, I think he's come to life this season. He's playing really, really well. And then pale nyuma yake tu kidogo kuna nini Partey hapo sitting central midfield. And he's playing a very, very cool role. I liked watching actually Partey akicheza, and then you see how he actually controls the game. It's very interesting. He plays very simple passes, passing left, passing right, diagonally, but very effective passages. So he controls the game. He's a very interesting player to actually look at when he's playing the game. But going up front, Saka and Nketiah have been on form. Nketiah, hatukuwa tuna expect, but he's actually been firing and he's actually playing well. Actually, the real question is, how will Jesus fit in? Atakujaje aingie kwa hii match? I think what will happen is he will be introduced, given 15 minutes here, 30 minutes here, and then trying to bring him back up to speed. Um, so, in terms of my prediction for this match, well, um, I think you can make a case for Everton on the basis that they have a new manager, so the players will be looking to prove themselves for the new manager. So they will be working extra hard so that they'll be constantly picked at the top 11. Um, Arsenal as well. You could also make a case that um, Arsenal are the team on form, They've won the last four out of five matches. They are the team that is actually eyeing the Premier League table. They haven't won it, Premier League Cup. They haven't won it in a long, long time. I'm sure they are fully motivated for each particular match. They're treating each match as a cup final. Arteta, everything he seems to be doing is working. So everything he touches is turning to gold. Well, you can make a case for them that way. Then the top players, as I've been mentioning. Um, but I think um, the fact that this match is in Everton and the fact that they are new players, plus the players will try in as much as possible not only to get out of the relegation zone here, because if they actually win, they will be getting out of the relegation zone depending on the results here. Um, I would say I am expecting a draw. Now I can see the draw probability is 19%, which is higher, of course, than Everton's chances of winning the match, but significantly lower than Arsenal's chances of winning the match. But for me, I think this will actually be a draw. And if this is a draw, I'd say this could significantly impact the title race. Of course, Arsenal bado iko na Man City home and away, so those are 6 points that could be taken away from Arsenal depending on how they perform on the matches. But still, all to play for Arsenal. And for me, this match, I think it's going to be a draw. Okay, so the next match will be at 3 p.m. Well, there's a number of matches that will take place. I think it's five in total. The first one that we're considering is Brighton and Bournemouth. So Brighton have actually been playing really, really well. The last match they actually had was against Liverpool in the FA Cup, and they actually won. And then match before that, I think it was Liverpool again in the Premier League, and they won again. I think it was the time they actually beat Liverpool 3-0. So Brighton have actually been playing well. I like one player in Brighton in particular, the guy who plays in the left wing, Matoma. He's actually really sharp, really quick. Off the mark, he's a very tricky player, very hard to mark. Trent Alexander Arnold alikuwa na shida kumark huyu jamaa. Um, I think people need to double in terms of trying to mark this guy. If you ask me, I think that player Matoma, the way he's currently playing, I think is better than Saka. But that's my personal view anyway. So Brighton have been on form. Of course, they have the other players contributing as well. So not only Matoma, kuna Machapo, kuna the other players contributing as well. Defensive, they've also been well, playing well in defense. In defense, they are at home. They are number 6. They are currently on form. They've won 3 out of their last 5. They've only lost 1 out of their last 5 matches. So they're currently on form. So it's looking really, really good for Brighton. Tukiangalia the opponent, which is Bournemouth, it doesn't really look good for them. They have not won any game in the last 5 matches. They've actually lost 4 out of the last 5 matches. So it doesn't really look good for them this season and even in this particular match. So I think this is going to be an easy win for Brighton. So I'm going to go for a Brighton win here. All right, so the next match we're looking at is Man United versus Crystal Palace. Now, Man United has been in good form. I think they only lost the last match against Arsenal, and they actually lost in a last-minute winner. It was Nketiah alifunga bao in the last minute. Some say he was offside, but if you look at the offside rule again, it's and then you look at the lines from the highlights, it looks like the guy was actually onside. So anyway, the Man United have won 3 of the last 5 matches and only lost 1, so they're in good form. Um, and since Ten Hag has actually joined, Man United has seemingly found some form, and especially I would say after the World Cup, so after Ronaldo found some form, and they're playing well. They're exciting. Bruno Fernandes, I like him. After I would say after Ronaldo has gone, so he's playing really well as well. So he looks quite sharp and able to perform. I'm expecting that you'll be able to perform well in this match too. He will be the captain as well, so again, I think he will be extra motivated. Plus, it's at Old Trafford, so it's looking good for Man United. Let's look at Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace are currently number 12. Well, they're not on form, I would say. They have only won one match out of the last five games. In the last two games, they've actually drawn. So it's a very, I'd say, it's even almost like relegation form. Um, so they've not really been playing well, but they have one key player, that is Wilfred Zaha. Now Wilfred Zaha can change a game in a second. You know that. He's a former Man United player, so going to Old Trafford, unajua atakuwa motivated. And it's not only Wilfred Zaha. You also have other players such as Olis. That guy is actually plays well as well. So Patrick Vieira, I like him as a manager. I think he's hard to beat. But the only problem with Crystal Palace this season wamekuwa na too many draws. So I would see in this match, in terms of who's going to win, I'm going to predict that Man United is going to win this match. So taking into account their recent form, they're trying to get into the title race. I think they're still trying to prove that they're within the title race. Therefore, I think they are extra motivated to actually win the match, and I think they will have too much for Crystal Palace. So I go for Man United win. Okay, so the next match is Brentford and Southampton. Now, Brentford is number 8. Okay, and who would have predicted that at the start of the season? So they're playing really, really well. This is a team on form. Now, this has been their season. They have a key striker, Tony, and he's been scoring. And if we look at the stats, he's actually among the top scorers of this season. So Brentford have won the last 3 out of 5 matches, and they've not actually lost out of the five matches. So it's a team that is very much on form. If we look at their opponents, which is Southampton, they're rock bottom of the Premier League, so they're number 20 with only 15 points. They've actually won one of their last 5 matches, so they're capable of actually winning. So they can capable of a surprise, but um, I think Brentford would have too much for Southampton in this match. They have a key striker. They have other players such as Wissa, which I think are key players. Mbepu or something like that. I can't remember his name. Which is actually a key player as well. I think Brentford are really playing well. I think they're punching above their weight, and I would expect them to win easily this match. So I go for a Brentford win for this match. I remember Brentford actually beat Liverpool as well. So this is a team that is actually on form. So I think they will go ahead and win that match. Okay, the next match is Wolves and Liverpool. Now, this is a match that is very, very, very difficult to predict. And I say that because Liverpool this season have been on and off. They don't have any consistency. Some players play well in one game, they don't play well in another game. It's very, very difficult to know which Liverpool team will actually turn up. So um, for this game, you can make a case for Liverpool. Liverpool are currently, I think, they are above Wolverhampton, so they are number 9. Wolverhampton is number 17. So Wolverhampton, it hasn't been their season. Usually they will be top 10, or at least in around number 10. But anyway, Liverpool, you can make a case for them, as I was saying. They need the win. They need to transform their season. This could be the game where they actually bounce back in the Premier League. And some of the players start scoring. They have good player. I think Nunes. I actually like Nunes. He's quite quick. He's quite sharp as well. Sometimes he gets caught offside one too many times. The other issue with Nunes is finishing. So he needs to work on his finishing. I think if he works on his finishing, he will be a really, really good player. Um, Salah has not really performed as we expected or as we know he could perform. Van Dijk sometimes has actually been dropped. Again, I think the game versus Brighton that I was talking about, he was the game that he was actually dropped. So um, this is a Liverpool side that we don't know how they will actually perform in the team. But you could see that they have real quality players. I mean, Thiago is really quality within the team. So you could make a case, a strong case for Liverpool. Wolverhampton, yes, they have strong players as well. Um, you could make a case for them. They've won 2 out of the last 5 matches, so they know how to win. Yes, they've lost, but they've actually won. You could say that they actually need the points. They are motivated because they want to get out of the relegation zone. They have seen what Brighton have done to Liverpool, and perhaps they will just copy that and try and get a win. But overall, my conclusion here is that Liverpool will have, I think, too much for Wolverhampton to handle. But whether they will defend it well enough to maintain their lead throughout the match, I don't think so. So as a result, I go for a draw. So I think this one will be a draw. Okay, so um, Wolverhampton, I think will be a draw. Okay, so let's go for the next match. The next match is the Aston Villa match um, versus Leicester City. So the Aston Villa match versus Leicester City match is actually a Midlands derby. I'd say they're some distance away from each other. I'd say around 1 hour, 1 hour 10 minutes drive from one another. So some distance around, in terms of the locations of the stadiums. So this is a proper Midlands derby, and it is also a mid-table clash. So if we start with the Aston Villa, which is the host, Aston Villa have 3 wins out of the last 5 matches. They have drawn one and lost one. So you could see that over the recent matches, they've actually been on form. And Leicester City, in contrast, have actually lost 4 out of the last 5 matches. So they've not been really playing well. So ukiangalia vizuri, it looks good for Aston Villa in terms of the form table. Now, if we look at the win probability, is actually saying the same thing, that Aston Villa is highly likely to win this match. But you never know, because Leicester City has some good players. I like Barnes. I like Madison. I'm not too sure about Iheanacho. Sometimes he has a good patch where he scores 2 or 3 goals in maybe 2 games, but sometimes he goes on a very long dry spell, or sometimes where he goes on a drought where he's actually not really performing well. So I mean, Iheanacho, you can't count on Iheanacho. Daka is almost the same kind of striker, so you can't really depend on Daka as much. I thought this window they needed to strengthen their striking. Um, I thought they would have done that, but hey, there you go. Somebody else who's I like from Leicester City is obviously Vardy. The problem with Vardy is, since the title-winning challenge in 20 15, 2016, he's not really been himself. Especially this season, he's been in and out of the team, so you can't really count on him for him to score um, uh, for Leicester City. So Aston Villa, they have really good players. I mean, there's that guy from Jamaica, Leon Bailey, who's really good. I like him. Matty Cash, again, I think he's almost like a Daka, where sometimes he performs well, sometimes he doesn't perform well. So it's a difficult one to call. But I have a sweet spot for Leicester City, just because of what they actually did in the 2016-2017 um, uh, championship. They actually won at that time the championship. Looking at the form, they're not really on form, but I think Brendan Rodgers is actually motivated to win the next match. I think he has to win, because a loss will mean that they have lost the last In the last 6 matches, they've lost 5 games. I mean, I think that will be too much for Brendan Rodgers, and might be the start of the end of the era of Brendan Rodgers in Leicester City. So I think they are really motivated, and Brendan Rodgers will be really motivated, and is there to prove a point. And therefore, I think they might actually, just because of that, they might actually win the match. Okay, so let's go to the next match, which is the Newcastle West Ham match. Now, the Newcastle West Ham match um, is one which is one team which is currently on form and playing really well, having the season of their life, while West Ham, on the other hand, is almost having the worst season in their life in the Premier League. So Newcastle, they are on form. Yes, they have won 2 out of the last 5 matches, but they have not lost any of the last 5 matches. And when you actually watch Newcastle games, they play with some energy. Gimiresh, for example, they play with some energy, which it's very very um, nice to see, and you enjoy the game as well. I know they know how to defend. They couldn't be the third position if they didn't know how to defend. So I can tell they know how to defend. So this is a team that is looking really good, kufanya poa sana against this match. In contrast, West Ham have only won 1 of their last 5 matches, so it doesn't look really good for them. They still have some good players. I like Declan Rice pale katikati. And then I like Fornells. And then I also like the other guy who scored 2 goals. I can't Bowen. Yes, Bowen, who actually scored 2 goals in the last match. So um, West Ham, they have on and off days. This season, the big difference compared to the last season is they've had a lot of off days, and as a result, they've been punished for their off days. Newcastle is the kind of team to actually punish you when you're on your off day, especially this season, and for that reason, I can actually see. Uh, this is a difficult one. I think this is a difficult one to predict, but I'll go for a draw. I think this will be a draw. The win probability suggests that Newcastle are most likely to win with 60%, West Ham at 16% chance of winning, but I can see it being a draw. On the basis that Newcastle, yes, they know how to win, um, but West Ham have really, really good players. I mean Antonio. I mean Declan Rice. Um, this is a team that I think should not be where it is, and I don't think it should be in a relegation fight at all. So I see it being a draw. Okay, so let's go to the next match, which is the Nottingham Forest match against Leeds. It's almost a derby. It's not a derby, but it's almost a derby because these two teams are actually not too far away from each other. So Leeds is not too far away from Nottingham. I'd say it's around 1 hour 30 minutes in between the two towns. Um, so um, Nottingham Forest have actually had a decent season. They're number 13 in the table. They have won 2, drawn 2, and lost 1. I mean, that is mid-table form. So they're doing relatively well for a new team in the Premier League. They have Jesse Lingard, of course, who's I think is not having the best season ever, but as he's performing well. I think the team is doing generally well, and they've made some signings as well. I think, for example, they have got the striker from Newcastle, Chris Wood, to join the team, Nottingham Forest. So maybe that will give them an extra push. For Leeds, Leeds are playing. Sorry, Leeds are playing with fire. Basically, they have not won any of their last 5 matches. They've just been drawing, and that is actually what is costing them. I think they desperately need a win. Leeds reminds me of the US team in the World Cup. They're really exciting to watch, but they don't really um, uh, take caution when it comes to defending. So they are all out for attacking, but they are not really taking care of the defensive duties. So this is a team that has actually been boosted by the arrival of Weston McKennie, another American who has joined the Leeds team. So there's a number of Americans in the Leeds team. You have Weston McKennie, you have the American captain Taylor Adams, and the manager himself is actually American. So this is a team that reminds me of the American team in the World Cup. A bit naive when it comes to defending, but looking at the two teams here, I think this is a game where neither of the teams can afford to lose. Now, as a result, I think this is going to be a draw. So I go for a draw for Nottingham Forest against Leeds. Okay, so the next match is the big match for this weekend. It's Tottenham versus Manchester United. Manchester City, not Manchester United, Manchester City. All right, so if we look at the win probability, it goes 22% Tottenham and Man City 55%, and a draw of 23%. Recently, these two actually met, and Man City won that particular match. Now let's look at the form, and then we can try and determine the outcome. So in the last 5 matches, we start with the host Tottenham. So this match will be at White Hart Lane. Tottenham have actually won 2 out of the last 5 games, and have lost 3 out of their last 5 matches. That's not good enough for Tottenham, to be honest. They're not a team that is currently on form. I know this is a team that is thinking that they could be performing better, taking into account they have actually played more games than the rest of the teams that are above them. So this is a team that needs a good first half, because in the second half usually they will actually play really well, but in the first half usually they don't usually turn up. Having said that, they have good quality players. Harry Kane, quality. I think if you put him in front of goal, he will shoot. You are guaranteed he will shoot. Whether he will score, that's another issue, but he will actually shoot. Song is the same way. He doesn't need a second invitation to shoot. I mean, there are other good players as well in the Tottenham team. Now, Man City have 3 wins in the last 5 games. We all know how Man City play. They are exciting to watch. Very different type of formations that they actually adopt when they're playing. Um, I like the new well, is it a right back that is actually being introduced by Pep Guardiola? Rico Williams, I think he's really good. Um, he's obviously young, so he's prone to make mistakes. But other than that, I think Anatiza very well in the mid. He's actually a fullback, but he actually plays in the midfield. He's a very interesting kind of um, uh, formation that they actually go with. So we now need to look at ambition and what they have to play for. So Man City is really keen on closing the gap between Arsenal and them. There's a 5 point gap, as you can see there. So they're really keen on closing that gap. So I think Man City will be extra motivated for this match. So you can make a case for Man City. Again, you can also make a case for Tottenham because they're playing one of the big boys, so they want to prove themselves against one of the big boys. Harry Kane will want to turn up. Remember, there was a history here. He wanted to go to Manchester City. The transfer did not happen, so maybe he wanted to prove a point. But overall, if I look at the overall fixture, I think Manchester City will have too much for Tottenham. And I mean, they have a huge squad and full of depth. So we're talking about Bernardo Silva. We're talking about Grealish. We're talking about Mahrez, who has been in very good form recently. We can't continue talking about Manchester City without talking about Haaland, who's been on form the whole of this season. Perhaps he'll even get to 40 goals, perhaps 45 goals this season. Kevin De Bruyne, of course. So this is a team full of stars, and they are capable of playing for each other, capable for running for each other. They're capable of defending. And as a result, I think they will have too much for Manchester City, especially taking into account what they are actually fighting for. Um, okay, so overall, this is my prediction of the table after the all the match day 22. So Arsenal will remain where they are, but the point gap will actually reduce, I think, by 2 points. So instead of having a 5 point gap, we'll have a 3 point gap. Arsenal will still have the game a game in hand. Newcastle, I think Man United will go above Newcastle. I say that because Newcastle, as I predicted, I think he will draw with West Ham. Um, the next one is Man United, I say, will go above Newcastle. Tottenham, I think they will remain where they are. Brighton, a team that will remain where they are as well. Fulham, I wouldn't predict that. Maybe these are changes. They've been changed already, but I wouldn't predict that because, as I said, this video will come after the Fulham game. The next match is the next team is the Brentford. Is Brentford? I think Brentford, who are they playing? Brentford. I think Brentford will actually win the match. I think they're playing Bournemouth or let me just double check. Brentford. Yeah, no, Southampton. So I think Brentford will actually um, win the match. So I think depending on the Fulham results, they may actually go above Fulham. Liverpool, I think Liverpool will draw. They might actually win, but I think it's more likely that they will draw. So they will remain where they are. Chelsea, I don't want to predict that, as I've already mentioned. The Aston Villa, I said Aston Villa. Uh, I said Aston Villa here might win. I also said Leicester might win here. So this is a difficult match here. I said I had a sweet spot for Leicester City. As a result, I said Leicester City would win. So Aston Villa will remain at the same spot. Crystal Palace, I think Crystal Palace will lose against Man United, so they will remain where they are. Nottingham Forest will draw, will remain where they are. Leicester City, I already mentioned, they will win. As a result, they will go to maybe the same point as Nottingham Forest, or no, because Nottingham Forest is actually winning, so they'll get 1 point. So just below Nottingham Forest. So they remain where they are. Leeds United, I think they will remain where they are. West Ham, I'm predicting a draw, and therefore it will remain where they are. Um, Wolves, I'm predicting that Wolves will actually draw with Liverpool. So they'll remain where they are. Bournemouth will lose, so that's my prediction. So they'll remain where they are. Everton will remain where they are. Southampton will remain where they are. So the key big difference here would be the reduction in the point gap between Arsenal and Man City. And the other big point or big thing that will happen this weekend is a switch. Manchester United going to position number 3 and Newcastle going to number 4. Okay, and if that actually happens, Newcastle will start looking behind their shoulder because now pressure will be on them because they don't want to be in a situation where Tottenham can actually catch up and beat them to number 4. So I think the starting four or the number, the first 4 teams by the time we're in March 23 is Arsenal, Man City, Man United, Newcastle. Well, that's been the Premier League prediction show. Thank you for watching. See you on the analysis part of this match day. I will make sure I'll post it after the final match of the weekend. So after the match between Tottenham and Man City. I hope you enjoy the matches and see you on the analysis video.